So we're moving into what I'm referring to as the Energize piece of the program. I had an opportunity to meet and see Andrew Davis in person a little over 2 years ago. I think we were in Pitt County, North Carolina, at the State Travel and Tourism Conference, and I was inspired, to say the least. Andrew, who lives now in Florida, and I'm not going to read his bio, you have it in your book, but the piece I'll pull out of there is he has spent a good part of the last probably 5+ years exploring small towns that are successful and figuring out exactly what it is that made them that way. And he shares that in such a unique, uplifting way that I think you're going to walk away inspired and energized. So, without further ado, please welcome Andrew Davis to the podium.
Yay. Thank you, Caleb. Thank you. Thanks for the warm welcome. Thank you, Mike, and thanks, First Bank. Good afternoon, guys. How's your box lunch? If it's still in the box, you got a problem. Thank you so much for having me. And I just have to say, wow. I mean, wow. I sat through like the last 10 hours of sessions, and I am amazed at the things that are going on in North Carolina. You have done some really great things. Let's give it up for all the people who've shared, all the great conversations we've had. It's been really awesome, so thank you. I'm blown away. And if as an outsider, for someone who's sitting in the audience, if all I saw was these case studies, I'd just be like, these guys don't need any help. They seem like they're doing great. It's going great and everywhere in North Carolina. But I know that's not the case. And I want to share with you my story and some things I've learned along the way because, to be honest, like Caleb said, 6 years ago, I had no interest in economic development. I could care less about tourism. I wasn't really that excited or interested in exploring these ideas. And I'll just share with you where I've been. In 2012, at the age of 40, I retired. So Caleb, this is what happens after you get bored. Like the first month was awesome. I had sold a marketing agency that I had grown over the course of 12 years. We had offices in Boston, Sydney, and San Francisco. When we sold the agency, we traveled. I had a great time. 3 months into it, I was sitting on the couch watching marathons of Judge Judy in my underpants. And my wife was like, you gotta find something better to do. And at the time, I had also published a book called Brandscaping, my first book, and I was getting a lot of calls and inquiries to come and speak around the country and around the world. And so my wife was like, why don't you go do some of these things and put some pants on? So I did. I put some pants on and started traveling around the country. And very quickly, within a few months, I encountered a town that changed my life. One town that just shocked and awed me, and it became my obsession. For 3 years, I wanted to figure out why this one town was booming and others were bust. I wanted to know the secret formula. How had they done what other places couldn't seem to do? This town that changed my life was a very oddball place. I had been booked to speak actually just north of Indianapolis. It's about a 3-hour drive if you don't take the highway, in a little place called Warsaw, Indiana. And because I was retired, I had plenty of time on my hands, so I did not take the highway. I took the back roads, which I actually love to do and have always loved to do. And I started driving through all the little towns on the way to Warsaw, Indiana. And the first place I got to was Anderson, Indiana, which looks like this. This was the middle of a day on a weekday. Just so you know, they have no parking problems. It's not an infrastructure issue that they deal with. I stopped. I got out of the car, looked around at the boarded buildings and said, well, there's nothing to see here. I'll move on. And so I moved on right down the street to Kokomo, Indiana, which, by the way, is the home to the world's largest steer, which I did go see. It's stuffed in like a park, and it is large. But also right down the road, there were lots of kind of dead and dying and empty factories. There wasn't much to see in Kokomo. So I got back in my car and I kept driving. And as I got to Elwood, Indiana, and saw more boarded up buildings and burnt out downtowns, I started to wonder, who's going to be in Warsaw, Indiana? Like, I can't imagine they're going to fill up this empty town to come see me speak. This is going to be the worst speaking engagement in my entire life. And I was kind of preparing myself to speak to like 3 people and like give away a book. And you know, in the trunk, I had 3 cases of books because I had never heard of Warsaw and assumed it would be a big place. And then I got to Swayze, Indiana, and I was like, I got to check out Swayze, Indiana. I mean, with a name like that, it's got to be so cool. I saw this awesome post office and went to check out the post office, maybe talk to someone, but the post office was closed. Not closed forever, but just closed because they were out for something else. It was like that kind of town. Like, it was like, Bob will be back in 9 minutes. It was like, oh, okay. Everybody obviously knows Bob in Swayze, Indiana. And this was my first great lesson in what was happening in real America. This is when I started to think, what is the problem here? And as a marketing guy, and a guy who formerly worked in the television world, I spent 10 years working in TV. I worked for the Jim Henson Company, the Muppets. But I also produced for the Today Show. And you guys might remember Charles Kuralt. I wrote for Charles Kuralt. Do you guys remember his show, An American Moment? My first job out of college was writing for An American Moment. And there are 2 chapters in his book, by the way, which I wrote. I'm very proud of that. And now that he's no longer around, I can tell everyone I wrote them. So I'm very, very proud of that. But I wanted to know the story. What is the problem in these places? And with all these little towns, essentially, there are 3 main issues. The biggest one is flight, right? Urban flight, as we might call it. But urban flight, all the young people leaving our towns to go work in bigger places with bigger opportunities, leads to an aging population. And when you have more people dying than are being born in your town, you've got a problem you've called population decline, right? And it's going to keep declining. And if you have a declining population, you have declining revenue, and there's not much you can do about it. This is the problem I heard over and over in cities and towns that I visited. But it wasn't the only problem. I started to realize that in a lot of these places that seemed to be doing maybe okay, there was a lot of revenue recycling going on. Not just urban flight, but revenue recycling. Now, revenue recycling is a pretty simple economic concept. It's like Betty works at the grocery store, right? She takes her paycheck and drives down the street to Dave, who works at the gas station. She takes a portion of her paycheck that she got at the grocery store and gives it to Dave while he's pumping gas. And then Dave takes a portion of his paycheck, goes down the street to see Deb the haircutter, and Deb now has a portion of Dave's and Betty's paycheck, and she's cutting Dave's hair. And Deb actually walks out because she's got a toothache. She goes into Bob the dentist. Next thing you know, Bob the dentist has a piece of everybody's paycheck because it's expensive in the dental office. And he goes to the grocery store. And Betty's now paid again, and on this goes. And this isn't sustainable if the first problem is true. If you have population decline and fewer people are spending money at all the places in your town, well, eventually no one's getting any infusion of revenue. So what do we need? Well, we need a revenue injection. And what do we do when we're looking for a revenue injection? Well, a lot of the places I went to said, we need a big company. We're going to get, we got Amazon. I just submitted an RFP, and they're definitely moving to Alexandria, Indiana. Like, I'm on the top of the list. I even submitted an email and got a response that might have been automated, but they used my first name. Like, okay. I'm sure they're moving here, right? Like, this is always, we're always waiting for something. That revenue injection's just around the corner. This is a problem, revenue recycling and the constant wait for a revenue injection. And the third problem is much harder to see, I think, but it's one we all have felt. I think the flattening of the world, as Thomas Friedman called it in 2005, is here. And if you can telecommute or work shift or outsource or mobile computer, upload or download or offshore or Skype or virtual office, whatever, why do you need to live here? You can live anywhere in the world. Why our town? Why stay here if I can be on Ocracoke, right? Like, I don't know. No reason. I can just Skype in. This all of a sudden poses a lot of questions, like how do we spark economic development where the geographical and historical divides are totally irrelevant? These 3 problems is what I saw driving to Warsaw, Indiana. But when I got to Warsaw, Indiana, the first thing I saw was a sign. Swayze, Indiana, right down the little highway, and I get to the City of Lakes. Welcome to Warsaw. I'm like, wow, that's a nice sign. And I drive right past the sign, right into downtown, and parking is not available. It is packed with people. There's 2 people walking on the street. I was like, are you serious? What does this town have? I drove past these office parks. They weren't dying factory buildings. They were office parks with packed parking lots. Like, it would be hard to find a spot where you didn't have to walk like a mile to get to the office park. And I was like, what is this office park all about? I went downtown and got a sandwich, and I could sit outside on a bench, but not find parking, but sit outside and enjoy a nice downtown experience with lots and lots of other people. What is it that Warsaw, Indiana has that no one else has? Yeah, it's got some lakes, but it was like an oasis in the Rust Belt. It was like this amazing experience that I hadn't seen for 3 hours driving. And on the surface, there shouldn't be any difference. Warsaw, Indiana is still in the middle of nowhere. Just like they don't have an international airport. They're not trying to get trains to run through with commuters from Chicago. They're not waiting for anything. This town is booming. Every single year since 1895, they've had a population increase. Never had a decline. What was on the bottom of that sign? Could whatever was written on the bottom of that sign be the key to Warsaw's success? Let me tell you right now that what's on the bottom of that sign did one amazing thing. One amazingly simple thing. It created location envy. Now, we're told that envy is bad, that envy is one of the 7 deadly sins. This kind of envy, though, is a productive kind of envy. It makes people want to strive to be better. They're envious that that place has something our place doesn't. Let's make our place better to compete with that place. Or let's create our own location envy so people want to come to our place. Location envy is an emotion. It's not a rational belief. It's an emotional belief that one's success is defined by the location of one's work. And this happens more than you think. We spend a lot of time in economic development convincing people to move here, to relocate here. We keep answering the same question: why should I be here? Why should I move here? Why should I invest here? Why should I relocate here? You want infrastructure? Why here? Why should I do it here? Why should I do it? Why? What happens when you create location envy is the conversation is entirely flipped to, why shouldn't I move to Warsaw? Let me think about it. Seems like such a great place. It's got everything I need. There must be a reason I shouldn't move here. Let me look for reasons. Can't find one? Well, I guess I'll move here. Flipping the table with location envy turns out is actually easier than I ever thought. And it all had to do with that sign. When I drove into town, I had no idea that this sign would be the secret to not just this city's success, but 54 other cities and towns that I visited in the United States over the course of 3 years. They had a formula for success, and it was all encapsulated with a simple phrase. Now, Warsaw, Indiana used to be an old little train stop, okay? In 1895, it was just a depot on the way to anywhere else, just like a lot of little towns and cities across our nation. But in 1895, a guy named Reverend Dupuis came to town. He was a Canadian. He showed up in town, and he realized maybe there's an opportunity. He noticed that a lot of people who had fought in the Civil War had healed poorly, especially for broken bones and limbs. And Reverend Dupuis had this idea, instead of sticking a stick on somebody's broken limb and the doctor just saying, I hope that heals okay, buddy, maybe we could create something that you could mold to someone's arm or leg, and it would heal much better. And here's the wonderful thing about small towns, by the way. For 5 years, Reverend Dupuis did not pay his bill at the Hayes Hotel, and they let him stay there because he kept saying, next week I'm going to sell one of these. They were like, okay, Mr. Dupuis, the tab is pretty long here, buddy. He was like, just trust me, I'm not leaving, I got to stay here, we're going to make this work. For 5 years, he toiled out of that hotel room, and eventually he started selling his fiber splints, and they took off like a rocket. They were selling everywhere. Today, Dupuis Synthesis is a $5 billion brand still based in Warsaw, Indiana. Warsaw, Indiana, where he started that business in 1895. And those are the office parks you see driving through Warsaw, Indiana. Lots and lots of Dupuis, Synthesis, offices, but not just them. In fact, they've made a huge impact by just claiming something very simple. Warsaw, Indiana is the orthopedic capital of the world. Right? Who said woo? Who was that? Someone, where was it? You get a book, my friend. Because even feigned enthusiasm I will take. There you go. Thank you. I like to give away books, but I don't know how to do it. It's like love. You don't know it until you see it. I love you. That was great. Warsaw, Indiana is the orthopedic capital of the world. And it's not just something they put on their sign. It actually means something. Warsaw, Indiana is the orthopedic capital of the world. 3 out of the 5 largest orthopedic manufacturers in the world are now based there. $17 billion a year pumps through a little town with a population of 13,000 people. They file more patents per capita in that town than anywhere else in the country, including Silicon Valley. This town has not just blue-collar opportunities, but intellectual capital and white-collar opportunities like you would not believe. The average in the United States is for 10,000 people is 5 patents a year. They do 32. That's amazing. They have 39% job growth year over year for the last 5 years, and there are 54 orthopedic companies outside of just those 3 massive ones. In fact, the 4th just moved there. And you know where they moved from? Germany. They picked up employees and moved to Warsaw, Indiana. Warsaw, Indiana does not have an international airport, my friends. They're not waiting. People are coming. They have done amazing things, and they've also built a whole system to support this one simple idea. This is OrthoWorks. OrthoWorks is a nonprofit whose charter is to ensure that every day Warsaw, Indiana remains the orthopedic capital of the world. Trademark. That's right. Every single day. That's what OrthoWorks does. And they focus very intensely on this. When it comes to building a workforce and education, they have initiatives that are focused on ensuring that they have the workforce to power a German company showing up overnight and needing a bunch of employees. They build Think Ortho, which is all designed to get college students and high school students really excited about working in the orthopedic industry. They do show and tells. They do traveling shows. They go to schools, not just in Indiana, but all over the world to showcase how innovative this industry is. They've also won tons of awards for their educational program that's gone all the way down to kindergarten to help them understand the opportunities and the wonderful technology that you can use from kids all the way through. So we heard great things about education yesterday. Dave's presentation was great, by the way. David? Yeah, that was David, right? And this is the kind of thing that Warsaw has done, very similar to him. They also have partnered with universities. They started with Purdue, but now they have relationships all over the world with universities to help them understand the workforce needs that they have moving forward and how universities can participate in providing an ongoing job pool that constantly is there. Workforce development and education isn't just about the people they're training. It's also about the place. So what does orthopedic capital do? They market the place to the people they want to attract, the young people that they want to get to the move there. That's what it says on their move to, it says live in the orthopedic capital of the world. They're not talking to everyone. They're talking to exactly who they want to move there. And it works. It works so well that it's an oasis in the middle of the Rust Belt. And I started to wonder, could it be that simple? You just fill in some blanks. Blank is the blank capital of the world. Blankety blank, that seems easy. So I started going on a journey, and even on the drive home, I started to wonder, is it just, we just have to stake a claim? Like blank North Carolina is the blank capital of the world? Can you maybe even make it smaller? We're the capital of the county. Maybe we're just the capital of the state. Maybe we're the capital of the South. I don't know. Does this work everywhere? I had lots and lots of questions, but it's not easy to think about the places we know to see that these these places actually, from a marketing perspective, create something really powerful in your mind. They start to own a corner of your mind. Let's play a little game. Nashville, Tennessee is the country music capital of the world. Exactly. You guys got it. You didn't have to think about it. You weren't like, I don't know. What are they known for? What do they have? I can't think. I'm not sure. No, we know what Nashville is all about. What about this one? Charlotte, North Carolina is the banking capital of the world. Exactly. All right, we're going to get a little harder. Napa Valley is the... No one ever misses that one. They're not like, it is? I had no idea. Napa. Yeah. How about this? Los Angeles, California is the crime capital. There's always one guy who's like, I hate that place. Entertainment capital, movie and film capital. What's interesting about claims is the more I research them, the bigger the places, the more claims they can actually stake. And it starts to look like little communities. Like Hollywood is a part of Los Angeles that's very much the entertainment capital of the world, or the movie and TV capital of the world. But there are other places that look very different. And it doesn't stop with just Los Angeles. How about San Jose, California? This one's a tricky one. It's actually the center of Silicon Valley. It's the startup capital of the world. Santa Clara, California could also take that claim maybe, but very much the middle of Silicon Valley. All right, how about this one? New York, New York? What happened? Did you guys stuff chicken in your face, or you don't know? The Big Apple? What about this picture? What does it make you think of? Wall Street? So I was in London recently, and I said that they claim in New York that it's the financial capital of the world. And these English guys were like, no, 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 no. London, my friend, is the financial capital. I was like, okay. But all you have to do is go uptown to Broadway, and you ask someone on Broadway, what is this the capital of the world for? And they say, the live entertainment capital of the world, the musical theater capital of the world. Depending on who you're trying to attract, these things resonate very deeply. How about Hartford, Connecticut? Last one. Insurance capital of the world. It's a very simple way to create a sense of place. Now, this is like a very academic definition of what the sense of place is, but it doesn't really matter what you think a definition of a sense of place is. A clear claim forces us to think, and it allows us to own a corner of someone's mind, and they start creating their own sense of place. What's important about a sense of place is that it's the emotional relationship that individuals have with a particular place. We have to get them to be emotionally involved. And when it comes to economic development, we use a lot of logic. We got some numbers to prove our numbers. If you don't like those numbers, I got more numbers. I got better numbers. Let me run them. That's what we do. We try to get logic, logic, logic. But it turns out people actually move because they generate a sense of place in their mind, and it's one that they want to be part of. And a claim like that creates location envy, that emotional belief that one's success is defined by the place they do their business, by the place they work. So let me show you how this actually works. It actually does a few things, and in the book I spend a lot more time talking about the details of how it works. But the main thing I think that's important for economic development is that claims attract two types of people, the dreamers and the innovators. Let me just show you some examples. Now, we already know that Nashville, Tennessee is the country music capital of the world. Right. Now, Billy Currington, when I interviewed him, had left Atlanta in 1992. He got a football scholarship, by the way, and he was going to go play football in college, but at the last minute, he was like, I want to be a country music star. So he bailed. Can you imagine what his parents thought? He bailed on his college scholarship, his full ride, got in his car, and he didn't drive down the street. He didn't drive to Charlotte. He didn't drive up to New York. He went to the country music capital of the world. Now, it doesn't matter whether being in Nashville will make you more successful as a country music star than Atlanta. He believed that was the case, and that was his dream. And today, he's a multi-award-winning Grammy artist. He's had a number of #1 hits. Billy Currington made it a reality, but the reason he left and went there was an emotional belief, and he was a dreamer. This is a friend of mine, George Sloane. He left Boston in 2016. He packed up his hatchback, got in his vehicle, and started driving across the country because he wanted to write for the television industry. You don't go to New York to do that. No, you go to the entertainment capital of the world. Anyone who's wanted to be in entertainment does this. And today, he's a really amazing comedy writer, and he got his big break as the head writer for How I Met Your Mother, that series, and he's been successful ever since. Woo! Yeah, no book for that. Told you, it's like love. That was like, kind of think it was all right. But does it work for places like Warsaw? Yeah. I interviewed Becca Fike, who was actually a student at Purdue. And she left Nashville in 2011 to go to Purdue University. And I said, why Purdue? And she says, I plan on pursuing a job in the orthopedic industry as a development or quality engineer in Warsaw, Indiana. I'm sorry, Becky, really? Yeah. She wants to be in the orthopedic capital of the world. She left Nashville, which is an awesome place, for Warsaw, Indiana, which I will tell you is an awesome place. But it's just for people like her. It attracts the dreamers, but it also attracts the innovators. I interviewed a company in 2013, called Nextremity Solutions. And Nextremity Solutions was based in Red Bank, New Jersey. And they were two doctors who started a business to create new orthopedic devices. And they had great success with a few of their early wins, and they went to get some more venture funding, right? So they went out, got venture funding, and the venture capital firm said, we'd be happy to give you more money, but you can't do business in Red Bank, New Jersey. And he was like, well, what do you mean we can't do business in Red Bank, New Jersey? He said, if you want our money, you need to move to the orthopedic capital of the world. And he was like, really? And when I talked to the CFO, he said, we took our employees, we put them in buses and vans, we went out 700 miles to Warsaw, Indiana to check it out, and we fell in love. And we all packed up our bags and moved to the orthopedic capital of the world. The CFO didn't give me a bunch of numbers. In fact, this is his direct quote. The move to Warsaw was not only because it has the right address for the orthopedic industry, but because it also has the orthopedic talent pool needed to grow the company. He didn't throw any stats at me. He just said it's the right address. That's like saying 90210 is a rich zip code. He doesn't know. He fell in love with the opportunity to be more successful in Warsaw, Indiana than anywhere else. He had a severe case of location envy. The second thing the right kind of claim does is it actually reduces operational costs. And I'm just going to give you a quick overview on this. But this is all about the kind of infrastructure needs. And Elkhart, Indiana is an amazing story of this. Elkhart, Indiana is the RV capital of the world. This is the museum that I went to. It's pretty cool. But Elkhart, Indiana has an amazing history, and the way they ended up getting new employees and building that town is phenomenal. But the key to understanding why the RV industry is so successful there is that the companies who moved there invested in the community more and more with every new company. And it wasn't the companies building RVs, by the way. It was the supply chain who invested in the place. Everybody who wanted to provide anything for the RV industry said, you know what, we need to build a warehouse so we can be just-in-time manufacturing. You know what, we need a railroad that's closer to here than there so we can get to stuff faster. You know what, we need new roads, better bridges. You know what, we need more power. And all of a sudden, they were doing the investment. This morning, when we heard all about public and private partnerships that actually invest in infrastructure, this is the definition of it. There are 300 additional companies that have nothing to do directly with building RVs that pump $7.2 billion a year into their economy. That's the power of the supply chain reaction. That's bringing suppliers and partners to you, reducing the costs, increasing efficiencies, and even improving the infrastructure. And the longer the supply chain is for whatever you create, the deeper and bigger the impact on your infrastructure. Location envy is the emotional difference between boom, like Warsaw, Indiana, and bust, like Swayze, Indiana. Not the actor, just to be clear. Okay, all right, so this is what sparked all this research into the power of a claim. And I did 3 years of research. I visited 54 cities, and they actually were in pairs. So towns with a claim versus towns without a claim. And they all had similar geography, population, resources, demographic, education. A lot of them were like just across a river sometimes, very similar places. But all of a sudden, what was the economic impact? The average impact across the 27 cities that had a claim versus the ones that didn't was $2.9 billion a year in impact. The towns with a claim made more money every single year on average. And the question is, should we do this? I don't know, should we do this? No, the question is, can we afford not to find a better way to get people excited about our place? And if a claim can do that, why don't we consider it? Why don't we think about the power of a claim? Okay, I need some water. Are you guys doing okay? Yeah. Okay, good. Sorry, it's very hot up here. This is smart water. Yeah. $6. It's $6 smart water. That's right. But I'm invested. I'm emotionally invested in the smart water. I believe it's helping. All right. So let me just share with you in the last few minutes the 3 laws of attraction. And these are kind of the keys that I found to creating location envy, the things that really matter. And there are lots of nuances in these, but at the end of the day, they're really actually simple ideas. They may not be easy to execute, but they are simple ideas. And the more you embrace these ideas, the more successful you'll be in getting people to be excited about being there and flipping that question from not, why should I move here or why should I relocate here, to wondering why shouldn't they, like people like Nextremity. So the first law is what I call the law of the cornerstone. You need a success story that's from your place that you can leverage to attract other people. Okay, that's the first law, the cornerstone. You need a cornerstone to set up the success for future people. And by the way, just as a side note, the cornerstone doesn't have to be an active company. It can actually be a defunct one. Okay? This is a story about Batavia, New York. Now, Batavia, New York is also in the middle of nowhere. I don't know if anyone knows where Batavia is. A couple of people. Okay, it's in Genesee County. You can see where it is. It's way up there. It's got a population of about 7,000 people. And Batavia, New York, actually used to have a claim. They used to be the carriage wheel capital of the world. Do you want 2 books? Is that what you're going for? Okay. The carriage wheel capital of the world obviously was a good investment, but not very forward-thinking, but a good one. And that's what this is where they made a huge amount of carriages in the 1890s. By the 70s, it started to look like this. And when I visited, they had a downtown rejuvenation project that was in the works. And in fact, they told me it was almost complete, but they needed to raise the rest of the money, was the direct quote. So there were these giant holes in the sidewalk, and they were like, I think next year we'll fill those. Batavia, New York was struggling a little bit to really find their calling. And that's when a guy named Hamdi Yukalay came into focus. And Hamdi Yukalay was actually a Turkish guy from Turkey, but a student at Syracuse University. And he was really interested in doing something in the agricultural world. And his passion was cheese. He wanted to build a little cheese, like micro cheese thing up in upstate New York. And he went driving around one weekend looking for a place to build his little micro cheesery, as he called it. And he happened on a giant milk-producing facility. And he went to see the milk-producing facility, and it was closed up. It had recently been sold by Kraft, and it was essentially empty. No one was interested in buying this old milk plant. And Hamdi thought, let me ask around town. So he started asking around town, and essentially the whole town was making its living off of this one factory. And this closing could mean the end of like a real life in Batavia, New York. And Hamdi said, well, maybe I can make cheese in that. And he called his dad, because that's what you do when you're about to make a big financial decision. You call your dad, I guess. So he called his dad and said, hey, I want to make cheese. I got this big milk factory. And his dad was like, why do you want to make cheese in a giant factory? Why don't you make yogurt? And he was like, well, I guess. He was like, yeah, a big factory like that is probably better for yogurt. You should make some yogurt. He's like, okay, I'm going to make Turkish yogurt. And he's so convinced he's going to make Turkish yogurt. So he calls his dad and says, Dad, I'm going to do what you said. I'm going to buy the factory. We're going to make Turkish yogurt. His dad said, look, first of all, no one buys Turkish yogurt. You know what they will buy? Greek yogurt. And Hamdi was like, okay, let's create some Greek yogurt. By 2016, Hamdi Yukalai's business was a $3 billion business called Chobani. And not only did he save the town, but one economic development director in Genesee County took this one success. Remember, we're looking for a cornerstone. And he said, why can't I build the entire county's success around this one cornerstone? And he built this simple three-point argument. And he started going to every one of the yogurt manufacturers in the world and saying to them, hey, did you know that Chobani started in Batavia, New York, in Genesee County? And they said, no, I had no idea, but it's a $3 billion company. We'd love part of that. And he'd say, well, you can have part of that, but you can only do it in Batavia, New York. That's why he's so successful. Oh, really? Why is he so successful? 3 reasons. 1, you are in a day's drive of 125 million people. That's a third of the American population. And when you produce something that goes bad, you need to get it on the shelf fast. So this is good for you. And they'd say, yes, this is a good point. You can't do that in California. Then he'd say, number 2, we have a lot of milk, a surplus of milk. We are the 4th largest milk provider in the United States, but not all of it's being used, and you need a lot of milk. Greek yogurt takes 3 times the amount of milk and 7 times the amount of water than any other yogurt. So you need a lot of milk. But you also need a lot of water. Look at the map. Do you see the water? This is water. This, the blue. We have a lot of water. I can see that. We're in. And all of a sudden, people started buying in. Because Batavia, New York, is the Greek yogurt capital of the world. That's what he told everybody. There you go. You guys are getting it. By the end, we're going to have a big party, I can tell. And all of a sudden, by 2013, the end of the same year he started this campaign, he had 2 new plants, 165 new jobs, and $225 million invested. One of the companies was Mueller Quaker, a German-based company who decided to move to Batavia, New York, because it's the Greek yogurt capital of the world, and they want to see the same success as the Cornerstone. A cornerstone rises the tide. And today, Batavia, New York isn't just the Greek yogurt capital of the world. They have food manufacturing of all kinds. They have a mushroom plant that's amazing. It's like a cave with just mushrooms everywhere. They do frozen veggies. They have a buffalo wing flavored plant that's doing wonders up there. They now do have cheese and lots of cheese factories. And it all started with a simple idea that everybody wants to be as successful as the Cornerstone of Chobani. The other thing they did was they realized they're going to need a lot of employees, so they partnered with the SUNY, the State University of New York program. They created a new program in 2014 in Genesee County at every one of the community colleges. You can get an associate's degree in food service technology. And now they're fueling the growth. There's never an unemployment problem. They've got new people coming in, and the people that need them are coming in. It's a perfect symbiosis. They even got kids involved. This is Craig Scroth, and he's an awesome teacher, by the way. He's the teacher of this 4th grade class at Byron Bergen Elementary School in Genesee County. And this, as part of his effort to teach kids about the political process, the kids came up with an idea. The kids said, why don't we go down to New York, to the State House, and we convince them that Greek yogurt should be the official state snack. And he said, this is a great idea. So over the course of the year, they wrote lots of letters. They brought a bill to the floor. And for 45 minutes, the House and Senate debated whether yogurt qualified as a snack. And after all of this debate, the kids won. Greek yogurt is now the official state snack food. Woohoo! Because Batavia, New York is the Greek yogurt capital of the world. So what if we set a cornerstone for our own little microcluster? What success stories do we have? What if we commit to one specific type of business that's either been here or is here? What's your Greek yogurt? Here's my little rhyme for the day. Get rich, target a niche. Get rich, target a niche. When you think of trying to be everything for everyone, you actually win over no one. And Genesee County is proof that one simple argument and a great Cornerstone story can lead to huge economic success. All right, law number 2. This is the law of the origin story. Now remember, location envy is an emotional belief. You don't need stats and figures. You actually need them to emotionally attach themselves to the place itself. And there are 3 types of these kinds of stories. We're going to only cover one today, but this first one is one of the most powerful, and it's called the myth. This is a story about Muscle Shoals, Alabama, which is, again, in the middle of nowhere. It's the top left of Alabama in a very small county, but it's actually a really pretty little place. This is an old drawing of Florence on one side of the Tennessee River and Muscle Shoals on the closer bank there. And Muscle Shoals, Alabama is the larger of the two. But it's right there on the banks of the Tennessee River, and it's a really, really pretty place at night. I got there at night, so I took a night picture, sorry. But it's not booming necessarily from the lights, but it's a really great little place. You see, Muscle Shoals, Alabama had a visionary a long time ago, a guy named Rick Hall. Rick Hall actually died in January of this year. But this story is all about his tenacity. And Rick Hall really believed that he could create better music in Muscle Shoals, Alabama than anywhere else in the world. And he had friends in the music business. And for years, and this is in the 50s and 60s, he would start calling his music producer friends in New York, which at the time was producing tons of music, and LA, which is still producing tons and tons of music. And he would call them up and say, hey, why don't you send one of your artists down here to record? And they were like, why would I do that, Rick? Are you a moron? Like, we have 40 studios here. I don't need to, they can just walk down the street and record and go home. Like, why would I send them to Muscle Shoals, Alabama? And he said, look, just trust me, bring one down here. Finally, one music producer who was about to release one of his artists said, look, Rick, I'm at the end of my rope with this artist. If you want to try one song in one day, I will send them to you. You try the song. You better record a hit, though, because otherwise I'm getting rid of this person. And Rick said, fine, send him down. That person was Aretha Franklin. Rick Hall and Fame Studios went to record hit after hit after hit for anyone you can imagine. The Rolling Stones got in an airplane from London, England, flew to New York to fly to Muscle Shoals, Alabama to record a song. They have recording studios in their backyard. Why do they need to come to Muscle Shoals? Well, it turns out, for years, Rick Hall was telling the same story over and over, and they had a successful backup band called the Swampers. These are the Swampers. In fact, for a lot of those songs that you think are soul-thumping songs, it was actually a white backup band behind them recording those songs. Amazingly enough, it's just not known. And these were the Swampers. You actually know the Swampers if you know the song Sweet Home Alabama. Now, Muscle Shoals has got the Swampers. That's the backup band they're talking about there. So you've all heard of them, you just may not know them. And Rick Hall in 1959 put up a sign that said, welcome to Muscle Shoals, the hit record capital of the world. You guys got it. Much better. Now here's the story that Rick was telling everybody. Rick said that the reason we can record hit after hit isn't because we have some great technology. It's not even because we have a backup band that's awesome. You know why we record hit songs? It's because of a Native American legend. And here, on the banks of the Tennessee River, we've been told from our fathers and our grandfathers that a princess lost her lover in the Tennessee River. And every day, for her entire life, she came down to the banks of the Tennessee River and she would talk to her lover in the river. And if the river was tumultuous and raging, she would sing a raging tune. If it was soft and bubbling, she would sing a lullaby. And that singing river is all you need to find the inspiration to record a hit song. So if you're having trouble in the studio at Fame Studios in Muscle Shoals, he doesn't say take a 5-minute break. He drives you down to the Tennessee River and lets you listen to the singing river. And when you're ready, you come back and you record a hit. That you cannot move to LA. You cannot build a Fame Studios LA office and expect to get the same results. You can't do it in London. You have to do it in Muscle Shoals, Alabama, because origin stories like these own a piece of our heart. They create an emotional connection you cannot detach from the place. The singing river is only in Muscle Shoals, Alabama. And this is the emotional connection. Emotion leads to action, while reason leads to conclusions. That emotional inspiration gets stuck in people's mind. And when the Rolling Stones are having trouble recording a song in London, you know what they think? We don't have inspiration. Emotionally, there's no logic to this. So they make an emotional decision to get all the way here. We need more emotional appeals. We've got to uncover our origin stories that power our growth. You've got to find the origin stories you can tell, and there has not been a town or city in this nation that I have not encountered amazing stories that have the potential for this kind of growth. They also build really healthy communities. I'm going to give you 2 quick examples here, but the Shoals Community Clinic is a bunch of really awesome nurse practitioners who got together in 1997 to start a program of visiting nurse practitioners. They come into the community to make sure that they keep their rural community healthy. They now have a volunteer dental program, and in 1997, after their start, they actually have served about 35,000 people in the 2 towns of Florence and Muscle Shoals, right on the river there. The other thing that's really cool about this program is they participate in something called Sing Me a Story. Sing Me a Story is an amazing nonprofit program that's put on by musicians all over the nation where they take sick kids' stories and turn them into songs. Perfect connection for the Singing River and Muscle Shoals. The other community, this is a story from my book and we won't dive into it, but if you're interested in healthy communities, I really challenge you to go and visit Hamilton, Ohio. Hamilton, Ohio has a nonprofit called Community First Solutions that's been around for over 100 years. They have the nation's only nonprofit pharmacy, and they are the visionaries in the community. They've actually staked their claim as the packaging innovation capital of the world. And in fact, anyone who's drinking out of a soda can, that patent was filed in that town by a woman, and it was the first patent ever issued by the U.S. Patent Office for a woman. And it came right out of Hamilton, Ohio, and Community First Solutions does amazing work making sure that the community is healthy as well as has got the right marketing message to get around. So you need origin stories to really spark your growth. All right, we have 2 minutes left and time for one more story. Are you guys okay? Yeah. All right, I need a sip of water to get through it. I'm going to be fine. Don't worry about me. that was in my head. Okay. The last thing you need, and we're going to talk about this more after lunch, but you need a visionary. Now, I love the word leadership, but for the next 5 minutes, I want you to think about visionaries. Visionaries can paint you a picture of what the future of your place looks like 10 years from now. It's different than leadership. A leader can be a great leader, but have no vision, and that's okay. We need those too. But I want you to think about visionaries. This is a story of Hamilton, Missouri. Hamilton, Missouri is the most nowhere place I have ever been. I drove there to check out this little town, got into the middle of town, and this is essentially what the view was. There's a dumpster and no one, literally no one. It had a nice Welcome to Hamilton mural that looks like I'm the only person that ever took a picture of it. That's how it felt in that town, really down and out. So I did find a sandwich shop. The sandwich shop is called Angela's. I went into Angela's and got a sandwich. I was hungry, and I asked the proprietor, Angela, what the town is known for. This is the question I ask all over the country. What is your town known for? And she said, we are known for 2 things. And I said, wow, that's great. What 2 things? And she said, we are the town of champions. And I was like, wow, like Super Bowl champions. You have like pennants. What do you have that makes this town so unique? She's like, we have a Division 9A football team that's never been beaten. The Hornets. Go Hornets. And I was like, oh, okay. That's impressive. Really going to build the economy. What's the second thing, Angela? Please help me. And she said, well, you know what? We're actually the birthplace of James Cash Penney. And I was like, wow, that sounds impressive. So I ate my sandwich and I said, where's the James Cash Penney house? She said, right down the street. So I drive down the street to the birthplace of James Cash Penney. And it looks like this. And it's only open on Thursdays between 2 and 4. And it's Tuesday, so I'm not going in. So I drive back to Angela's, and I'm like, I'm really sorry, but the James Cash Penney house was closed. Can you just give me a little history? Who is James Cash Penney? And she looked at me like I was the biggest idiot in the world. She was like, J.C. Penney? Oh, that got it. You're the birthplace of, how long did he live here? Oh, he was just born here. I don't even know how long. These are your two big attractions? And as I'm walking down the street in downtown, I walk into a store run by this woman, Jenny Doan. She's 65 years old and has been for 7 years. Every year she still tells me she's 65. And she has a little corner quilt shop. And I walk into the quilt shop. It's the kind of place where you can open the door and you see everything, but she's also looking at you, so you can't be like, nope, never mind. I have to be like, fake like I'm real interested. I'm like, hey, yeah, I love quilts. What's going on in here, you know? And she's like, oh, I'm so glad you came in. We get chatting, and she's a little bit wacky, but she's very excited about the quilts she makes. And her business model is a little weird, right? She lives in this little town, and imagine that it takes 9 months to make the average quilt. So let's do some simple basic economics for this business plan. How many quilts do you have to sell at what price to make like a decent living, even $30,000? Well, you can make one quilt and sell it for 30 grand. I don't know if this is going to work, but she tells me she has a vision for the community. And I say, what's your vision? And she says, I want Hamilton, Missouri to be the Disneyland of quilting. And I'm like, oh, okay, I got to go. This has been, you seem really nice. So I leave, I get in my car, I took a card of hers, and I checked in with her month after month. Well, the first call I had with her, she tells me, I've started a YouTube channel, and I'm doing tutorials on YouTube every single week. Every Thursday, you can get another quick quilting tutorial from me. And her idea was, I'll show you some shortcuts that you can make a quilt in as little as a day. So she starts doing these. Let me show you one of the early ones she sent me. Here we go.
Hi, I'm Jenny from Missouri Star Quilt Company. Welcome to our beginner block series. Today we're going to learn how to make a 4-patch. This is an easy and versatile block and you'll really enjoy it because you feel success right away.
So you guys want to watch the whole thing?
We're going to use a strip of fabric that we've cut.
I wasn't that impressed, but a few months later, it's not just Jenny doing these little tutorials. She all of a sudden has 240,000 subscribers on YouTube watching her do these every week. In fact, every single week, 63% of the people who get the video watch the video the same week it's released. So they're actually consuming this over and over. This is what she became in just a few months.
Hi, it's Jenny from the Missouri Star Quilt Company. I can't even tell you how excited I am to show you this quilt. First of all, I love the bear paw. It's one of those patterns that is traditional and awesome, and I love it, but it's a lot of work. And I have totally simplified it, which I love it when that happens. The other reason is I love this fabric.
All of a sudden, she was a celebrity. She went to Walmart in Kansas City, and all of a sudden realized at checkout that somebody had called their whole quilting group to tell them that Jenny Doan was at the local Walmart. So 25 women were waiting at checkout for Jenny Doan. And that's when she was like, wait a second, something's amazing is happening here. Now, you can go to the Missouri Star Quilt Company in the middle of nowhere and buy some stuff, but remember, you can also go online and do this. She started buying ads to not just promote her online store, but she actually started to promote the town. I want you to watch the ad that she spends $50 a week on every week to get new subscribers. All right, here we go. Oh, let me tell you, sorry. I want to tell you a quick story about Al, her son. Al is the business brains behind Jenny's business. And Al said, I want to make a YouTube ad, Mom, so I'm going to do cool graphics, and I got a little script for you. And Jenny was like, I will bring my own graphics, and I will write my own script, and I'll see you in the morning. And I was like, whoa, okay. Here we go. So I want you to pay special attention to her graphics that she created.
Hi, I'm Jenny from the Missouri Star Quilt Company. You may know me from our easy-to-follow quilting tutorials online, but there's so much more to us than just great ideas and fun patterns. Did you know we're also a quilt shop? But not just any shop. We have the largest selection of pre-cut fabrics in the world, both online and at our lovely store in Hamilton, Missouri.
Go Hornets! Give it up for Jenny's awesome ad, right? Woohoo! So you can go online and watch Jenny every single day. If you want. You can go to an online store and buy stuff if you want. But people like Abigail Lemon, who's 29 years old, got in her car from upstate New York on a Friday afternoon with 3 of her friends, drove all the way to Hamilton, Missouri to go to the store. Yeah, it's nuts. And she's not the only one. In fact, it got so big and so many people started showing up that she actually built a sewing center to host conferences and events. Now, this is important for anyone interested in infrastructure. Jenny Doan tried to get a hotel to move to town. But if you look at the hotel numbers and you're a financial guy, you'd say there's no way this town can sustain a hotel. So what did she do? She bought some of the downtown buildings and built a sewing center. She also built a hotel called the Sew and Stay, where every room has its own sewing machine. So you buy stuff all day, you sew all night, so you have to buy stuff all day. Genius, right? Then she needed places for people to eat. She tried to get Starbucks to come to town. They said, no, we can't come to town. So she was like, well, that's all right. We'll build not just a sewing center, not just a quilt shop within the quilt shop. There's a nod to Penny's, by the way. We'll build a machine shed so you can buy sewing machines and have yours serviced. If you want to drive it across the country, we will help you fix your machine. We'll even give you a lesson on how to use it. We will also create some boutiques, some gift shops. And yes, we'll have to feed all these people, so let's make a fancy restaurant. We'll have a morning restaurant. She started buying everything in town and setting up business after business after business. But my favorite place in town is just for guys who were dragged there by their wives. And it's called Man's Land. It's woohoo, right? All the guys are like, yes. It's a man cave in the middle of town. And that's all impressive. But here's the thing. Jenny Doan has not just transformed her business. She's transformed the town and the county. She is the largest full-time employer in the county. She has 230 full-time employees. They own 21 buildings in the downtown area. They built a hotel, 4 restaurants, 14 stores. They get 120,000 visitors a year now and 5,000 online orders every single day that they fulfill in the town of Hamilton, Missouri. And in 2016, Jenny Doan and the Missouri Star Quilting Company did $108 million in revenue. Not bad. Not bad for a 65-year-old YouTube sensation. And here's the thing. Jenny Doan now has fulfilled her vision of becoming the Disneyland of quilting, except she claims that Hamilton, Missouri is the quick quilting capital of the world. Woo! Exactly. Remember, location envy creates this emotional connection to a place. People aren't coming there just for fun. They're coming there because they fell in love with Jenny and the town she's created. Emotion leads to action, while reason leads to conclusion. We have to tap the visionaries in our midst. Who has the most ambitious or weirdest vision for your place? No matter how crazy it sounds, you need to hear them out and help them understand how to paint that picture. What can you do to help? We need the visionaries, not just leaders. Now, we've been on a big adventure today. We've covered a lot of stuff, and I have one more book to give out. I'll give it out this afternoon at the last leadership session. But let me just leave you with this. There are 2 things that people bring up after this kind of a presentation. The first thing is, man, these sound like lightning in a bottle successes. These seem like, only strikes once, couldn't happen to us kinds of stories. If you may be thinking right now, hey, I'm not Jenny Doan, we don't have a quilt shop, I don't know what to do, I don't have an origin story or a studio like Fame Studios, there's no Cornerstone like Chobani churning out yogurt, and we're not the orthopedic capital of the world, what are we supposed to do? Are there other towns like us? Well, yes, there are. Every city I visited in this nation has a story, and to be honest, I've started traveling internationally sharing the same story. Places like Hamilton, Ohio, 2 years ago didn't have a claim, and now they have one, and they're building big businesses in their town. Columbus, Ohio is the fashion capital of the United States. If you didn't know this, it's an amazing story. There are places like Roanoke, Virginia that have taken on mountain biking. Yeah, right? Kingston, Ontario, even in Canada, are claiming their own stakes in the ground. Clintonville, Wisconsin, which is the home of the 4x4, is the fire truck capital of the United States. Wodonga, Australia. Yeah, even in Australia, they're taking this simple idea of creating location envy, or Bournemouth in the United Kingdom. Cleveland, Ohio is the content marketing capital of the world and has built a giant business around that. Eureka, California, and even Greensburg, Kansas have all taken these simple ideas and started changing their place. But here's the thing about economic development. There's a lot of talk we can do. And we're here talking about great ideas. The one thing every one of the 54 cities I visited that were successful had in common was a visionary who stood up and started doing something. We can't just talk about this stuff anymore. Stake your own claim. Find the visionary in your midst. And guys, the second thing that people ask me is, who's the visionary in my town? And if you have to ask that question, you are the visionary. Paint your own picture, build your own success, and stake your claim. Thank you guys very much. This has been lots of fun. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, guys. Thank you.